Isn't she? Yeah. Be comfortable.
Thank you.
So just keep an eye on me, because when I do that, it means...
I'm not looking at Jerry. I will be quick. I think what I got from that presentation is that I would like to talk about transport, because I think Liverpool is choked as a city, and I think looking at our transport system would set the city free and would add a lot more to the heritage landscape. Can you all hear me? Is that okay? One of our problems is we need to create 28,000 more jobs in the city centre to build our economy, and that's a real problem if you think about the amount of transport that might bring. One of the benefits is we're having new trains, and new trains statistically have a 7% increase in usage. The ferry usage has gone up, and we're also re-regulating our buses. So I think we can't do what Bordeaux has done, but I think we can do something towards looking at the transport and how the city is managed in terms of the congestion, because it's just awful. And then obviously that has an impact on the state of the buildings, it has an impact on green spaces as well, it has an impact on air quality. And for me, that's something that I think from the photographs, the difference in reducing the transport was really, really significant. So that's what I would like to say, and that's really quick, isn't it?
Fantastic, thank you.
I think I'd follow up on that, really, because what struck me was the quality of the public realm, particularly, and the way the public sector has led with that. And to achieve that sort of clutter-free, barrier-free result, you can't do that alone. You have to do that in collaboration. And I think that you talked latterly about collaboration in sort of urban planning of that new area, but I think it's evident that has been a facet through all of the actions that you've taken. And the benefits are there for everybody to see, aren't they? That really attractive place, and when you go to visit it, that you take away those feelings, that it's easy to navigate it, you become curious to get to the river without having to think too much about the conflicts that we find too often. I think opening up to the river, again, that's something obviously we're very familiar with here, and I think the message I would take from that is use every opportunity to do that, to connect to the river, because just as in Bordeaux's case, Liverpool too, the river is the driving force and has been in the past for it, and continues to be very much an important part in the future.
Thank you, Anne Law, for that really very dense and interesting presentation. It's difficult to know where... Is this on? Can you hear me now? Yeah, okay. It's difficult to know where to start with this, but I think what I find really interesting here, that it's encouraging to see there are a lot of similarities, if you like, between Bordeaux and what you've been experiencing and trying to the challenges you face and what we have here in Liverpool. And I think this is a really timely moment for us to think, because we were on the in danger list as a World Heritage Site in a city, that's giving us time to really think about how we approach strengthen our planning tools and strengthen the way we think about designing in the city, and in particular placemaking, which I think you were showing us really good examples of there. And so much of that, I think, you've pulled your OUV into the way in which your status has been granted. The fact that you talked about innovation. And I think that UNESCO historic urban landscape approach, which actually introduces us into a kind of more holistic way of thinking about how we design the city as a collaborative process, as a process that's not just about experts doing things to the community, but the community having an opportunity to engage in that place-making process. And the fact it is about that not only just our tangible assets and that setting for those tangible assets, which you adequately showed us how you'd improved on that setting through your landscaping work, but also the way in which the intangible qualities of a World Heritage Site involves understanding what people feel is important to them about their historical heritage. So it is a conversation. It is about bringing all those different strands of expertise together, and I think creating something that I'd like to know a lot more about your atelier. I think that sounds like a really interesting model for us to think about.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, public transport, public realm, and collaborative approach to planning and design. OUV, so you want OUV? Outstanding universal values. Every World Heritage Site has been designated or has described itself with certain outstanding universal values, which are unique to that place. So every World Heritage Site, Liverpool included, Bordeaux, Strasbourg, Hamburg, they have to work with the outstanding universal values of that particular place. And that's in the documentation that is submitted when you become designated as a site. So that's the initials that Leslie was using. Over to yourselves. Now we've got a microphone man here, and we have a gender equality policy in Engage. So if a man asks a question, it will always be followed by a woman asking a question. Even if we have to sit in silence for a while, that's our policy, and that's what we do. But we don't have to sit in silence ever. And I'm chairing, so please, if I catch your eye, who would like to ask a question? Yes, the lady. Tricia.
Hi, I'm Tricia O'Brien, and I was here for the last excellent presentation, and thank you for yours today, and Law. But I wanted to pick up on what my colleague Alice Bennett had to say about transport. But we have certain aspects about transport that's to do with the administration and to do with funding that I don't know if you have the same maybe problem in France. Because first of all, we now have this Liverpool City region that's really responsible for the transport infrastructure overall. And so, for instance, we've now got this enormous bridge over the Mersey that we all have to pay for. But nothing's really been done about bridging the Mersey nearer the city centre. And the second thing I noticed about both the other cities is an excellent tram system. And I just think, well, how would we do anything about either another bridge on the Mersey that was free, or a tram system that would benefit the populations and benefit bringing a lot more jobs, as Alice said, into the area? We've got two problems. How do we fund it? I don't know how you funded yours in France. And how do we get over all the administrative differences? Because we've got 6 local authorities, a Liverpool City region, then a Liverpool City Council. So I wondered if you could give us the benefit of your wisdom on how you got a bridge and how you got a really good tram system.
Okay, thank you, Tricia. While the microphone comes back to Anne Law, I'm just going to say, how did you fund the transport system? Where did the finance come from? And, sorry, before you, how did you fund it, and how did everybody get to work together to do it? You said we have 6 authorities, they have 27. They seem to have achieved it, and also I think we all know here, which Anne Law doesn't know, that we did have a municipal attempt which cost millions of pounds, went absolutely nowhere, to put in a tram system, and it was aborted. One of the main reasons was because 2 city authorities couldn't agree together and scuppered it. Millions and millions of pounds was lost and wasted in that. So, sorry, Anne Law.
Yes.
How did you fund it, and how do you work together?
The question of funding is a very interesting question, because there is a very interesting story behind that I didn't have the time to explain. For a long time, with the former mayor, Jacques Chaban-Delmas, has been mayor of Bordeaux after World War II till 95. He had a metro project, and urban developers has to pay a tax that was going to the cagnotte for the public transportation system. And as we didn't decide anything about the metro for so many years, the funding was beginning to be very, very high, and we could pay for that. Of course,
a tax on developers.
Tax on yes, on construction, yes, yes. And the second part of the question, work together. I'm not sure I have the answer at the whole question, but the thing is that Alain Juppé had a very strong authority. He was president of the urban community at the time, which significated that he had the power of deciding what to do. As you've seen, the tramway system is without cables, and it's not without cables everywhere. So the negotiation was in your city center, the municipality center, passing through the tram, you're going to have also a cable-free transport system. But the history of designing the line, I wasn't there at the moment, so I'm not sure to be able to tell you the detail of the discussions. I remember one of the discussions with the public transportation engineer was we are not going to pass through the quayside because an efficient public transport system has to deserve both two facades. And my director was fighting. Was already fighting at the time and say, but it's a social equipment, it's a social facility, so it's going to be worth deserving it as if it was housing. So this is part of the, I don't have all the answer, but if you give me your name, I can answer later.
Thanks very much, Anne-Laure. Mark needs to take that off you. Another question. Oh. Okay. Oh. No, you can't be next. There'll be a woman.
Hello, my name's Neil. Firstly, Anne-Laure, thank you very much for coming to speak to us. It can't be, it must be a bit daunting to come over here and give a speech in a second language, as you did. I thought it was very interesting.
It's her third language.
Third language.
Spanish is the second
impressive.
language.
Well, thank you very much for coming. My question, I'm going to assume, I don't know too much about Bordeaux, but I'm going to assume that it has a university or an academic sector within the city.
Does Bordeaux have a university? Yes.
Yeah. How did the plans for development in Bordeaux accommodate provision for student accommodation? And how does Bordeaux avoid being overrun by student flats?
Anne-Laure already has been told about student accommodation in Liverpool, so she's a little bit prepared.
In the 60s, the university has been placed in one of the municipalities on the west, Talence. Chaban-Elmas wanted to build like an American campus. We have a lot of student housing in this American campus, but urbanistic ideas are changing, and some of the educational facilities are going back to the city centers. And in the city centers, we have a lot of student housing, but in heritage. And we are fighting against that because we don't want a huge apartment to be to be cut in pieces. But at the same time, recently we heard that it is difficult for the student to find a place, an accommodation. We have a problem with the touristic reservation platform also, and Alain Juppé decided a very strong politics in the perimeter of the UNESCO site. If you want to have your have a touristic flat, you have to create another housing in the same perimeter. So this is sort of difficult. It might be an incentiveness to change offices into housing and touristic accommodation. It's very recent. We don't have a result yet.
Okay, thank you. A woman, please, to ask the next question. Okay.
Jane Harrod Roberts, Rock Carmichael. There was two slides. One showed some collection of bins and some cars in a little square, and it had been really well developed to a new landscaped area. There must be thousands of squares that you have similar in Bordeaux. Why was this one selected? Was there an initiative from the residents that would say, we would like our square to be redeveloped? And what was the process of decision as to why select that square? And also, where did all the cars go?
Okay. How did you choose the squares? Were there many squares?
We did everything.
There you are. Can you use the microphone? Where did all the cars go?
We didn't choose. Every single public space is being renowned pass by pass. This is one of the first one because it was symbolic because of the back of the building that has been destroyed and it needed this wall, but we are doing everything. And the car, we built underneath car park, underneath the underground quayside. You have 3 huge car park. Under the Cathedral Square, there is one. Under the Allée Tourny, there is another one. I'm not sure it's enough. Nowadays, in the regulation for the historic center, the mayor wants that these old former wine warehouse, have a place on the street, very big behind, that was used to store goods, and it's not a good place to live. The apartments are in the upper level. It's a good place for creative business, like architects or designer. But the Mayor of Bordeaux asked us in the regulation to maintain those places as parking place, land use only. For the moment, we are like that.
We have another questioner over here. I have remembered. I'm an elephant.
Hello, my name's Paul. Not wishing to be negative, but a lot of the before and after photos, the afters were quite sterile and empty and devoid of anything, because we have a problem square in Liverpool called Williamson Square that we keep redeveloping and keep trying different ideas, but it appears like there's the same problem with Canary Wharf down in London. the open spaces, when they're quite open and sterile like that, they don't attract the people. They don't attract people to do anything in them because they are just like paving with nothing. There's no seating. It's just a sort of blank area between places. And so I know we keep trying to redevelop Williamson Square here with different features, and none of them seem to catch on. So are those pictures representative, or are you getting people to do things in all those brand new open spaces?
Okay, if I can try and explain for Laura again. The pictures of the public open space, the public squares, seem to be sterile, devoid. Do people use them? What
Yes,
do you do with
of
them?
course. No, it's my fault. It's my fault because I took the photo for the presentation, the photo of Jérémy Bucholz of the beginning of the place, and at the beginning of the place you want to show the scenography of the site, and you are choosing a moment in the day where there is maybe not that much people, but I have same photo with a lot more people. It's very the place with a reflecting pool. It's just like a pool during all the season of the summer. It's a place to be for everyone, and young or olders, rich or poor, everyone is meeting there. It's a place, very, very popular place. Same thing for the little square. Well, you've seen a lot of cars and waste, and today it's a student place. A student place with a lot of animation. No, those places are used a lot. It's just my fault.
I agree with Paul. It did look a bit minimalist. I'm going to ask the panel, would somebody or all of you like to comment on public spaces in Liverpool compared to what we've seen in Bordeaux? Any comments? You have got a microphone in front of you. You don't have to stutter this time around.
I think there is a way in which, when we think about placemaking, we can also think about how we engage with artists in integral design solutions that are part of that early design development for a project, that are integral to the development of new space. They're not sculptures, they're not sort of necessarily three-dimensional elements, but they can be an artist's contribution to creating something that makes a place quite distinctive and gives it a unique sense of identity. And I think we in Liverpool tend to think about working with artists quite a lot. I mean, it doesn't always come off, but I think that's something that the cultural dimension of Liverpool makes us want to focus on, that way of thinking about working.
I think sterile spaces are brilliant for putting things in, like at the pier head we had the fun fair all summer, so I think we need them, because you can do, we have, obviously Jeremy Corbyn spoke there the other week, so you know you have all kinds going on in public spaces that are devoid of any feature, and I think we need them as a city because we can do so much with them.
Yeah, I think it's about public spaces that are distinctive and have a purpose, and a lot of that comes around the context and the surrounding buildings and the uses that take place there. You know, and quite often they have a, you know, an intrinsic purpose. So you know, your market squares, your green squares, and I think there are a lot of opportunities in Liverpool to reinvigorate some of the squares, like you've said, Williamson Square. The solution's not been arrived at yet, but hopefully, I know planners are afoot to look at that afresh. And I know Pete Swift is there, and I'm sure in Pete's capable hands we'll see something really quite, and his team, something quite good come from that. But there are also in areas that you know, it was quite interesting. I thought your focus on some of the former industrial areas and how those are now being turned into new attractive urban neighbourhoods. And whilst it's important that those are right in terms of the structure of them, the public spaces and the opportunities for public space varying scales and varying details are really important.
Thank you very much. The lady at the very back. Mark.
Mary,
Can you hold the microphone a bit closer?
my name's Mary. Perhaps you said that the planners are looking at redeveloping or reinventing, reinvigorating Williamson Square. Perhaps now this is the time to involve the public before it's decided, which seems to happen in Bordeaux. You get lots of stakeholders involved before you get to the end product. So perhaps this is your opportunity to make that happen and see if you get a different view and maybe a more long-standing purpose for Williamson Square instead of having to keep reinventing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary, for that question.
Yeah, no, that is
I'm going to ask. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask all the panelists to comment rather than Anne-Laure, because the question really is around the way we do planning here. We've learned something tonight about the negotiated urban planning that they have in Bordeaux. Is there room for us to pursue that here? What's stopping us doing that here?
I don't think there's anything particularly, and I know the City Council, in respect to that Williamson Square opportunity, have taken the lead, because I was involved with the team that put a submission in. We weren't successful, but it's very clear from that brief and the process that engagement from the very early stages is something that is seen as being extremely important to getting a good solution. So I think that's happening, and we want to see more of that happening, I think. And if you take that also in terms of sort of opportunities in other places, some of the more enlightened developers actually see that that's really important. Not only does it create a result that the local residents and new residents and new investors value, but it creates a solution that's good for everybody. So I think we'll see more of that, and it's certainly something that I welcome wholeheartedly.
Thank you.
And I think, the city has just recently got into a partnership arrangement with Reba North, a new architecture centre, and the digital model. And particularly for our World Heritage site, that digital model is a very useful tool for being able to have meetings and discuss developments around the model. And I'm hoping that, our relationship is fairly early, but I'm hoping that we can use them more proactively in terms of this kind of work that we would perhaps like to develop. And there is also Places Matter and Design Review Panel, which offers another sort of mechanism for engaging and thinking about design. So it's something we certainly want to see more of. It's a question of getting in early enough, I think, to be able to have the contribution from all the stakeholders, as it were, feeding into a process.
Thank you. I think public spaces should be defined by the public, so I totally agree with your point.
That was brief. I didn't even get a chance to swig a bottle of water there. I think I'd just like to make a comment, Mary. I really appreciate your question there. I think what's clear is that it's done very differently in France. What my experience of being in this city since birth is that the developer and the architect make their designs and then have a formal consultation process, which is very formal and very little happens as a result of it. What we see in Bordeaux is everyone round the table at the same time, hearing everything, listening to everything, before any designs are even put together. And that's impressive. Setting out the parameters, setting out the ideas, setting out what we want to see here. Now go away and see if you can draw something up. That seems to me to be quite different. And personally, I like it. I've been to large numbers of events like that where we do it traditionally in the UK, and they're not really listening very closely to people. A questioner over in the far corner. far corner. Can you just wait for the microphone?
I would like to remind us that actually the government has legislated for community planning, neighbourhood planning. I would say that Liverpool is not very good at it. It can take years for the council to actually recognise a suggested plan. There is very little conversation. But it is government legislation which is supposed to enable communities to develop plans in discussion with the local council.
And I can add to that, Jean. Engage has organised 3 neighbourhoods in the city centre, one of which was turned down by the council illegally on the waterfront, one of which was passed in the Baltic, but the people in the Baltic then weren't capable of carrying it through, and the third one was in the historic downtown area. So we're very keen to see that happen, but Liverpool doesn't do it well. I'm conscious of asking Gwyneth for one more question because we need to front row over here, Mark. Ian.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming and speaking about Bordeaux. Mine's links back to transport, but also public realm. You may have seen, getting to this building, quite a large road system outside, and I also saw within your photos another road system that links to the waterfront. Originally, before the improvements, I saw a big car park at the waterfront as well as still that road system. You still have that road system. I think I counted 5 lanes, 6 if you include the tram system. With your improvements, has there been any knock-on effects with the transport system, or has it remained the same? Was the public realm improved, which allowed public crossing? Has there been any knock-on implications, losing all that car parking area and the roads?
So are you questioning around negative impacts that's been detrimental as a result of what they've done?
Yeah, so I've seen a lot of positives. I was there 2 years ago, and that area definitely wasn't barren. It was full of markets, which is great. But obviously, linking it back to Liverpool, there's been a lot throughout the years, a lot of studies done with the Strand.
Yeah.
Is there anything which you did which had those knock-on implications which were negative?
Okay, so the question, Anne-Laure, is Liverpool has a similar road system on the waterfront, the other side of this building, a lot of lanes of traffic, very busy, poor pedestrian crossing points. When you redesigned Bordeaux, were there any negative, clearly we can see the positives, were there any negative impacts of that? Any complaints, anything not worked properly?
A lot of complaint. Of course, all of this started with a change in the mobility plan and the direction you can take in one street, if you can have 1 lane or 2 lanes, both sides or no. Everything was changed and everyone was complaining. And step by step, people get used to it, get used to the new circulation plan. But now we have to think further, because Boulevard has the site limits, has also a question of transformation, maturation. I can't tell you a lot of that, but we also have another step to define and to redefine the circulation plan. So this is a never-ending story about complaining and balancing the way of mobility. A lot of we started bicycling after the work. Before, nobody in Bordeaux was using bike. I don't know why, because it's very plain, but the part of bike is increasing very, very rapidly.
We know why people don't cycle in Liverpool, because it's not safe. Cars and lorries going past you, it's really difficult. I'm going to call a halt to the questions. I I just want to very briefly say thank you to everybody and ask you, we're doing something tonight which we wanted to do last week but we forgot last time. Everyone should have on their seat a feedback form. Please, there are extra copies over there and there's pens, lots of pens over there. You will not be allowed out until you've filled one in. And the most important thing to do is to put on your postcode. We don't really want to know where you live, but we have no funding except what we can get from sponsors. And this year, our sponsorship has not been enough to cover the costs of our seminar series. It's likely that the directors of the company will be out of pocket this year, perhaps to the tune of £1,000 or more. So we're very anxious to start building up a base of people who come and like our events so that we can actually say to prospective funders, well, at this event on Bordeaux, X number of people turned up and 90% liked what we did. So it's just trying to evidence, we haven't done this before, and we just need to be a bit wiser about how we apply for funding in the future. So please do that for us. I want to thank our sponsors this year, RS Clare, Brock Carmichael Architects Planet, and Liverpool City Council. And we're very grateful to them. Particularly want to thank the venue, Port of Liverpool Building, and Rathbone's staff. Brian Kenny, Martin Lumber have been really helpful, but especially Katrina Kelly, who's been here throughout, and thank you so much for all the work that's happened. For our marketing, design and digital agency, Nonconform, our catering, Vanessa from Bean has been wonderful. Food, I think, from Bean is fantastic, and we use them because they're a local, independent company based on the waterfront, so we're keen to support them. Video, Joe and Craig, thank you two so much. We were live streaming again today, so people who aren't here are able to watch it at home. So thank you both to Culture City TV. The Engage board, always really helpful, especially Zarino, who's been magnificent. Our panelists tonight, Alice, Leslie and Mike, and of course our speaker, Anne-Laure Monio. Our final notice is to tell you that our third seminar, where we're hearing from two speakers from Bordeaux, from Hamburg, are coming in 2 weeks' time into the final one of the three graces, the Liver building. We have an architect and the World Heritage Site coordinator coming from Hamburg. If you'd like to support our series and tell other people about it, there are extra flyers around, and somewhere we have large copies of them. There's a box of flyers. Somewhere in the room, there's a box of flyers at the front. So if you want to take some home, post them in letterboxes, give them out to your people at where you work or at university. Lynn, take a box for the university. And thank you very much for coming, and thank you to our speakers. So can we thank our speakers once again?